All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Hangouts / Graders Notes with Dave, Jay, Roger, and Kenny. Yeah, it's a full-on cornucopia of guest hosts tonight because I had to move last night's show to tonight. So without further ado, I think everyone knows my compatriots, but real quick, we have to my right over there, we got Roger. Roger, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. Very blessed. Very excited to have a foursome here on Graders Notes. It's been some weeks since we've done that. And I can't wait to get into this one. This is a newer book for me. You know, I kind of stopped reading comics before this, so we'll see what happens.
I hear you there. I'm joined, as always, by my inimitable host, Jay. Jay, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. I'm excited. This is my first comic book showdown, so I'm excited about this. It's such an esteemed panel. You guys all look great.
Man, I like that. He's already got some points. Give him a 0.5 extra here on his score for me. And last but certainly not least, the man of the hour, Kenny. Kenny, what's going on, sir?
Hello, happy to be here in Vertical Vision for you tonight. Making it happen via phone. So I hope I'm coming through okay. And yeah, I'm happy to do this. I also had never read this story before, so.
All right. Yeah, I picked up the trade a little while ago. I had never actually read it before. I'd seen a video or two about it, and I was kind of interested. So, it's time to get into it. So, let me say hi real quick to some of the chat before we get started. And we're going to have to do a streamlined show tonight because we have to get Kenny on his way to do another show. We're going to get it done in all of its quality and or glory. So, hey, Mark Knapp, what's going on? Beta Ray's in the house as well. Right. Super Russ coming in hot from NC. Of course, the imitable Mr. Roy Kirk. He would be here whether it's Friday Night Hangouts or a comic book show. Same with Russ, of course. Good to see you. Good to see you. Wayne, Unruly Simeon, the best pinch hitter in the biz. Good to see you. Good to see you. Coffee Breath. Haven't seen you in a long time. He always catches us on the John Beatty live streams. Let's see. And okay, I think I got to hold everyone. And if you come in, just say this is a preemptive. Thanks for coming in. So, as everyone knows, we do our scores here on 4 different areas. That's the cover art, interior story, and the little more ephemeral one, the concept. And then we'll give an overall grade. And of course, we will get the most important grade of the night. That is the chat score. Everything's graded on a up to 5 scale at a 0.5. So 1.5, 1, or 2. There's none of that other stuff because we won't even count it because we have to tabulate. Oh, does someone else have a calculator tonight, or do you want me to get it too? Looks like I'll be getting it too. All right.
I don't have one handy, I'm afraid.
I'll have it queued up. Okay, just to be ready. Here, put this over here. And okay, so as per usual, we will start with the cover. And sorry if things are a little rushed tonight, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and start with Man Friday himself there, Kenneth. What say you? What do you think about the cover on this? Did you want to pull the digital copy up, or do you want to just have it solo for you?
You know what? I think I can pull up the cover okay. And, we're talking cover of issue 1, I presume, right?
Right.
This bad boy right here. Oh, yeah. So, as far as this cover goes, the main showcase is that sweet David Finch Hulk art there. Takes center stage. If you know David Finch, he spares no detail. Really a master class for most of the time that he does his thing. And I have really no complaints on the image of Hulk itself. I think that's like basically a 5-star Hulk drawing there. Really a bad trade dress up top. That is not very appealing to me. The Hulk logo with this like planet with like a beam coming out of it to make the U shape, I guess. I was not really a fan of that. I feel like the blocky letters feel uninspired. Looks like a super basic gradient tool that you'd find in like, Microsoft Paint or something. Like not very sophisticated on the trade dress, because you have such a basic looking trade dress with such a highly rendered David Finch Hulk artwork. And lastly on the bottom, I did think it was cool that like Hulk is kind of like running on the Earth, essentially, a world. But I barely noticed that until like, 30, 40 seconds looking at the cover. So I think it is cool. I think the concept of Hulk like kind of running on a world, on a globe, considering it's World War Hulk was cool, was clever, but I don't think it was really telegraphed quite well. I didn't, I think they could have maybe made the Hulk smaller, like show that he was running on that planet a little better. So a missed opportunity. I think they could have rendered that better. But A+ on the Hulk drawing. The top and bottom of this thing were missed opportunities. So I landed on a 3 for this particular cover right here.
All right, a 3 it is. Excellent score, excellent score. And moving right along to Mr. Roger. Roger, what say you about the cover scribbles upon? Was this worthy of a Hulkbuster armor, or is this simply bottom of the barrel stuff? What say you?
Well, as I said before, Finch really came about after I stopped reading new comics. But like Kenny said, the Hulk figure here. If you want to put it up real quick there, Gino, so I can just explain a few things to the people, because Kenny is focusing on the non-center of the cover, right, which is his prerogative. But when you look at the actual Hulk figure, look at the gnarled fingers, like the details there, like he's obviously come from a gladiatorial planet, and the fingers sort of show that wear, that kind of the abrasions that you would get in that. The kind of Frankensteinian look in his face. It's almost has that kind of focus, that kind of just an incredible focus that he is exhibiting there. The tendons on his left hand that are just pulsating out, and the striations of his muscles, that arm guard. You can tell that the Hulk is here to kick what and take names. All right, so as far as effectiveness of relaying the attitude and the mindset of a Hulk, I think this is a 5, right? My problems, the actual trade dress up there is boring. It's okay, and obviously him being on top of the planet is kind of allegorical to the fact that he is he is coming to do something that will affect the whole world. At least that's what the cover vibe gives off. But I think that is where it kind of gets a little muddled there, because he really is not after the world. He's after 4 particular individuals, right? So that's a little bit, that's why I don't like this cover. Those are the reasons I don't like this cover, because I want to know a little bit more than, hey, he is cheesed off and he is coming for something, but we don't know what, right? If you read Planet Hulk, you can sort of perhaps put the puzzle together a little bit, but I'm not. I'm taking this as, hey, I'm reading this for the first time. I know nothing else, so that I think you need a little bit more. Maybe some figures down there of some of the actors, sort of being maybe in little vignettes or little floating heads, something to give me a little bit more about what's going on here. But the actual figure, I think, is stupendous. But there's a lot of those little misses that really, to me, are important. I want to know, this cover has to sell me more than just a pretty figure. I want to know what's inside, at least a little portent of what's to come. I went a little bit higher than Kenny, though. I think that Hulk figure is just so dynamic and so telling that it really dominates, that cover, and it should. So 3.5. I think it's incredible Hulk drawing.
All right, 3.5 it is. Jay, you'll be up next. Do you want the visual aid or no?
Yeah, you can leave that up there. I'm with Roger. I haven't read like a new comic book in ages, so I know all the old stuff. I don't know this Finch guy, and when I saw it for the first time, I thought it was kind of over detailed. I mean, that was just my take on it, but it's grown on me. But there are a couple of things I didn't like about the cover, like just the perspective. I mean, I like the fact that the right hand coming at you is like big, but the left arm, it looks like he has no bicep, and it's definitely like out of proportion to the other side. It should be smaller, and it looks like he skipped leg day. I mean, he's got like no legs on him like whatsoever. So, as far as the idea of the cover, I do like that, but. Yeah, again, I think Roger hit it on the head. I have no idea what the story is about based on the coverage. So it's just the whole like taking on the world for whatever reason, huh? So yeah, it's the colors the colors don't really get to me. I mean, that's probably because it's like Photoshop and not actual like painted by hand. But that's just a personal preference. I don't know like if you guys like. Notice the difference when you see like stuff like that, but I definitely do, and that definitely takes a point down for me. But overall, I would say like I do like it. It's just if I was Jim Shooter, I would say, hey, redo this, and it'd be good. But I would give it a score of a 3. So that's where I'm at.
Nice. Nice job.
All right, Jay's first score on Grader's Notes, and it's a 3, a pretty good one, better than serviceable. All right, I guess I will leave this up as well, even though I do have the trade at least, and I would actually show it to you, but it's probably going to green screen out a lot of it, so we'll just leave this up. Okay, so the cover, a lot of what you guys have already said is very typical of what I would have said. I do like this transition, though, into making Hulk look a little more scary, as it were. Like, he's supposed to be a threat, right? And a lot, especially the mid-'80s, and mid-'80s are the worst for it, but sometimes in the 90s, too, he just looked kind of nice. Like, his face looked too nice, too much of that Professor Hulk stuff, and you want to see a snarling, raging animal, right, when you're thinking of Hulk, at least if you're going to make a storyline about him coming to wipe out most of the heroes on Earth, right? So I kind of dig this transition, and they gave him less of a lime green color too here, a little more earth tone, so darkened him up a bit. So that's a really cool idea. It's a good action pose, a little staticky. I mean, like, it seems posy, but whatever, that's fine. Yeah, I kind of agree. Maybe some silhouettes of guys cowering or something, being afraid, would have been a little better. It kind of gave him more of the idea. Maybe all the heroes down there are cowering and afraid because of what's going to be happening. So it's a cool action shot. It does grab the eye. I do like that fist way in the foreground. That's a difficult shot to pull off and not look way out of proportion. And I love the look of the Sakaar Hulk. It's so dumb, that dumb metal thing he has on his arm, and like the pauldron and arm sleeve. It just works, and it's asymmetrical, and that makes it cool. So I really like him in that costume on, even though it should have been like turned to slag multiple times in the book. We'll get to that a little bit later, maybe. It's just a good, solid cover. High quality rendering, and I gave it 3.5. It doesn't really tell a story other than Hulk fight, Hulk smash, but it's cool. I do like the fact that he's on the stepping on the planet too. It is definitely something of a portent in his World War Hulk. And I too was not crazy about the trade dress. I never liked this design on the comic books that they did later on in the 2000s, whatever, and stayed with that gigantic monotone border at top. It makes no sense to me, and I don't like the Marta logo over here with no pictures inside. And this looks like something from a Hulk cartoon, the trade dress. But I really do like the planet. Like, it's been cracked from his power or whatever, and makes the U. That's kind of cool. But I give it 3.5. It definitely gets the job done, and it's a very cool dynamic pose for the Hulk. And I do like that transition to the meaner looking Hulk, the actual scary opponent. So 3.5.
Nice.
All right. So what say you, chat? Throw us your scores now. Did you really like this cover? Did you find it wanting? Let us know in the comments, and we will tabulate your scores momentarily. But yeah, I like the darker tones on it. His mouth might be a little bit square, but then again, it's been like that for ages with him sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when McFarlane got a hold of him. His freaking head looked like a block, but
yeah, it comes and goes, but yeah, I like that. I like that Frankenstein-y kind of look of him. It makes sense, when you think about his origins are kind of like Mr. Hyde and Frankenstein kind of mashed together.
Mm-hmm.
So
he still got the bowl cut too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Harkening back.
Well, you know, those
But-
Sicarian barbers, they only know one cut.
Scat me.
Foreground fist is spectacular. What a really well
Hey,
done.
Biggie. How you doing, Biggie?
Big A.
Hey, what's
I'm a
going
little
on?
slow on the uptake. Sorry, I'm juggling a lot of stuff here. Welcome, Biggs. Welcome. And I guess we can. I'll leave that up there for just another moment. Let me start tabulating.
No pressure today. No Kirby involved here.
Yeah, I can't offend anybody.
Whew.
Unless they're big Finch fans, but really, I got no huge complaints there.
No, nobody's gonna diss Finch much. Yeah.
No.
I'm being quiet. You guys can talk if you want. I'm just in here tabulating.
Yeah.
now.
Did he do all the covers? Let me see.
There are a few pretty good ones in there. Yeah, there are a few pretty good ones.
Yeah, I think he did do all the covers. They look great. The
I
whole
wish he
series.
did the interiors too, but I won't say anything.
Uh-huh.
All right, last chance saloon. If you're gonna put a grade in, give me about 10 more seconds, and then I'm gonna go ahead and tabulate. Aha! There's another one coming in. Thank you, Mark. Good cover, and I'll tell you what though, yeah, some of the covers they went back to the brighter color of him, and it's so inconsistent in this series of multiple covers and variants and all that too. There's so many out there. It's not as bad as it is now, but all right, that should be good. So let me do some quick tabulations, and we'll get on to the next. Let's see.
Is the next category art inside?
Yep. So chat score actually comes in 3.75, so rounding up to a 4.
Wow.
Ooh, nice.
Strong initial scores there from the chat. Let me go ahead and stop that. Oops, I didn't mean to stop that totally.
I can see a 4. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And we're going to remove that. There we go. All right. So next one, we're going to be going inside. Varangian. I always get his name wrong. Vigilante. Well, yeah, it's easier.
Varangian Vigilante.
Card stock variants in the house, too. Welcome, welcome. I didn't get to say hi to Biggie other than the sign earlier, so thanks for popping in. Mr. Miracle was otherwise indisposed tonight. He had to help a friend move. And, you know, when you're doing altruistic things, I guess you got to let him go. So he wanted to be here, but he couldn't make it. So. All right, so next category, we're going to go to interior art. And yeah, I think the art duties were kind of split between a couple of different artists inside. But I think the heavy lifting was all done by Ramita Jr., right?
Yeah.
All right, and we got, and it's funny too, if you get in this trade, there's tons at the end of extra art that was like included in some of the variants and all that. So pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the insides. And Roger, why don't you lead us off with that? What say you on the inner scribblings of said artist?
Okay, you want to put this up there real quick? I'm going to be brief because, well, you know I'm not a Ramita Jr. fan. And this has been established from every time we do a Ramita Jr. I mean, I'm just going to be frank, right? I don't like most of his faces. Sometimes they look just janky, funky. A lot of them are similar. Like there are scenes where Doctor Strange and Tony Stark are in the same, and like when they're battling at the end there, I couldn't tell them apart. They look as that same goutee, same everything, you know. So he's just not that distinct. The Hulkbuster armor, that one there, looks like it's made of stone. You know, it's metal. Where's the luster? Where's where's the sheen? Nothing. It's like got cracks in it already before even the Hulk gets to it. You know, there's a couple. His Hulk faces are sometimes pretty good. I have to admit, when some of his it does sort of transmits, you know, his frame of mind at the time. It's pretty good. But every once in a while, there's just one that just looks like Gumby-ish, you know, almost amorphic. And I don't know. I'm just not a Ramita Jr. fan. I think Klaus Janson does a good job of sort of giving us the dark tone, you know, the dark undertone here. Everything is kind of just a little bit, almost like almost like there's a cloud, of overcast over this, and there is, right? That's a pretty good figure right there. I mean, he looks really menacing. He looks like he is just cheesed off to the end. I really like the way Jansen makes things just gives it that dark edge. Even the heroes, it's like they know what's coming almost. It's like they're going through the motions, and we know what's going to happen I'm not going to get into that. That's the story, but he does do good and sort of framing the penumbra of the story through his art, right? By giving it that shadowing, that kind of like there's why is that have that kind of darkness, right? Because it is a dark story, right? There's no winners here, okay? And I think Jansen does good to sort of also give a little more detail to that Romita, those cross hatchings there when it's metal. I don't get it, That's I'm going to stop there. The story does flow such as it is. It's very the fight scenes are pretty well done. Some of them are a little too exaggerated. Like when he does the She-Hulk and punches her, like she's buried and only her head kind of tilted. That shouldn't be. She should be flatter, But again, we're not talking about physics and comics, or else we'd be here all night. So I just did not enjoy the art that much, except for the dark tones that come through. So I give it a little less than serviceable too. To me, it just didn't work, except for a few fight scenes that were well choreographed, but not that well drawn. The figures themselves are just not convincing to me with the way that Romita Jr. does it too.
All right, 2 it is. Oh, we got a little below serviceable now. Tisk. What would the Romita clan say? So anyway, Jay,
his father is fabulous. Him, I just never liked him at all.
He was such a hot and cold artist. Like sometimes he could do some decent stuff, but then I don't know. Yeah, I think Jackson saying he started phoning in, or Wayne said he started phoning in a lot, and maybe so. But anyway, maybe more on that later. So Jay, what say you on the interior Romita art? Was this up your alley?
No, not really. Because when I look at the old timers, when you look at like a Buscema art or like a Jim Lee art, when they draw faces, not only is it good looking, which I never really got the sense out of Romita, but they emoted. Like you can feel like what they're trying to convey to the audience, and like that. Some of he does an okay like growl, but like every other face is just like is like deadpan, or is like just got a plain awful. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I will say like a lot of it is also like photoshopped. So I'm not seeing like the individuality. I'm just seeing a lot of like computer rendered stuff, like, and that's big for comic artists. I mean, you're not doing an anime or something where you're doing like 24 frames per second. You're doing one frame. Like you should be like putting all your love into it. And his perspectives, I have a problem with some of the shots in these panels, and like I don't know. I just get like the paneling layout is not even good. Like when they were meeting for the first time, the aliens and the superheroes, like where were they in relation to each other? And like all of a sudden they're just like smacking on top of each other. It's like it's just not a good fight scene. Like I think it's not like what was that comic you reviewed, the Juggernaut Thor like episode. Mm-hmm. It's not like that where everything is just beautifully laid out. And you saw a good like sequence of events. This is just like, all over the place, basically. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Roger and say, yeah, this is like a 2.
I like Jay. Let's invite him on more time.
You have a compatriot.
Oh well, thank you.
He knows what he's talking about.
Oh well, thank you.
All right. So what's left to be said for that? Yeah, man, this is a story of inconsistencies. I will be the first to admit there's some really cool imagery in this book. When he does things like this, and this whole book is full of it, the beating that the Hulk takes in this series of books is pretty stupendous, but more on that later, I guess. So there are some cool things, and that's a cheap way of making things look cool, whatever, big bright flashing colors and explosions, but it's undeniably cool looking, I think, and there's some cool action scenes. Jay's right, though, they're not set up too well. It's not much of a flow, it's hard to explain till you read, but you can tell if you've been reading comic books a long time. But there's some cool stuff like this, the Hulk coming out with his first victim of the Fantastic Four. Just lots of cool stuff. They'd use like a blur effect. So, yeah, I think Kenny's right. A lot of this was done on the computer because you'll see this several times throughout. So, I like some of the fight scenes, honestly, but everything else is pretty poor. And, man, the coloring is so strange in this. Like, you can see it right here. I know this is the flash of light, but Hulk's shading will change a lot, even though most of this is at night, so that shouldn't really be changing much. There's some interesting choices in designs of characters, like the Hulkbuster Armor he was saying. Some of the characters look very cartoonish, and this is supposed to be more of a serious kind of a book, right? It's real violent, and there's a lot of very, not so much disturbing things, maybe disturbing things if you think about it. But there's some undeniably cool panels in here, so I'm not going to be quite as vicious on this book as my first two compatriots were. But it's certainly no masterclass in art, and it's just funny that they chose to go with this style for this book. Definitely, like, stuff like this is like young adult, and YA novel stuff. It's like that doesn't befit a book like this, I don't think, and it's just strange. But I don't know. I like most of the time I like Hulk's treatments, but when Strange turns into Zom later on, it does have an undeniably cool look to it. Definitely harkens back. There's some cool panels like this that are mostly in shape, but once again, that might be a lot of Jansen's work there, muting things down a little bit. So, yeah, there's some good to be had. Does it outweigh the bad? I just meet it in the middle. I'm going to go with a 3, actually. I was teetering between that and a 2.5, just because there are so many cool action scenes throughout. This is technically through 5 books, by the way, the trade here. There's some cool fights in here. There's destruction like you haven't seen outside of a DC animated movie. And so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't like the treat most of the times. It's so many good action panels that I'm going to have to give it a little bit higher. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a 3 on this one and, let the chips fall where they may. All right. I was trying to find that Zom picture real fast because that's a great when he first it might be the next one. Where is it at? Zom.
I think that's issue 4.
Was it issue 4?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or is it the end of this one? I can't remember. There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Strange Smash. That's a splash. But anyway, Kenneth, please, what's your takes on the scribbles inside?
Yes, sir. You can give me the old full screen on here, Genome. I'm gonna do some pinch and zooming to relay my point. See how this goes.
Just like my wedding night.
So, so old JR, man, he the thing about, because I've always known that I hated his artwork, right? But when bringing this onto the Graders Notes table, and reviewing this, I had to try to understand, why do I hate his art? Well, hate's a strong word, but why does it rub me the wrong way? What gives me that initial reaction of this is not good, I don't like it? And I've narrowed it down to a few things. He definitely rushes through the art. I feel like it looks sloppy because he's just like a deadline Danny with most pages. When he takes his time, there's a couple, I think it's the last page of the first issue, which is maybe my favorite image from the entire thing. I really think he knocks it out the park, honestly. That is a fantastic image of the Hulk. But for almost everything else, it's quite rushed. So there's the rushed feel. This guy only knows how to render one way. he just uses straight lines. This guy's work has so many straight lines. It's kind of amazing. Like on the side of Doctor Strange's face, he's just using straight lines. Like if you go through the entire graphic novel's worth of this book, anytime he has to do any kind of detail, show muscle or shading, he just goes to town with straight lines. And there's just like countless examples of it throughout the book, and it's like it's such a lame way to render something like this. This image of Sentry was pretty cool, right? But it's almost laughable. Say we zoom into him, you'll see that all the detail in it is just a series of straight lines of different thicknesses, you know? But it's like, look at that, straight line. That's just his thing. It's like, brother, get a French curve, dude, or something. He's just got rulers abound, just doing straight lines all day long. And it's a lame way of rendering. The faces, you know, I feel like everyone has always commented on that, of like, there's the John Romita Jr. face. And it's true, all those characters look the same. They all have the wide nose, flat nose. The eyes are kind of like elongated, boxy. And like Roger said, not only could you have gotten, you know, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange mixed up, like at times you could almost get like the women mixed up with the men. Like he draws everybody like that. I mean, look at that. Is that Doc Savage or is that like Polaris making a cameo? You can't even really.
Doc Samson
or Cersei.
You can't even tell. And then, once again, look at Luke Cage. Look how many lines are on this dude. Like, jeepers, crow. The coloring, it's like Jay mentioned, like the computerized color, Photoshop. The digital coloring saves this thing from looking like a real amateur hour, honestly. Like, at least it gives it, I don't think it fits very well per se, but at least it gives it like a smooth pro feeling, the computerized art, coloring rather, because the line work is much to be desired. But, you know, in saying that, it's mostly negative, but there is, and his camera angles are really uninspired and boring. A lot of flat angles, like, ugh. But again, he can shine sometimes on big splash pages when he takes his time. Close up of Hulk's face, there was some cool pages there, and it definitely reads very clearly. You never have to like really wonder what's going on with Romita Jr.'s stuff. It's very clear, so you know it makes for a breezy read because you never have to stop to question what's going on in a particular panel. So, with all that being said, I landed on 2.5 here. It's a serviceable. I didn't mention the inking, but yeah, the inking helps. The coloring helps because it needed help, brother. But 2.5.
All right, 2.5 it is. A serviceable comes in finally. We knew it had to happen sooner or later, so that's being kind. And I was probably a little kinder than I probably should have been. I steered away from a lot of technical problems with it and looked more at it's just wow. There's a wow factor in here. Yeah. So,
and I think most of it's straight line because he used the Photoshop app, and so he's using the straight brush basically. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There are a few. Interesting panels to be had in there. Why is this other? Okay, there it is. But I always like this one right here of the Sentry. That's a nice little progression one there, but looks cool. But a lot of flash and not much substance there. I'm going to be honest with you, but it still did the job and didn't detract from the story too terribly much. So, what say you, chat? It's time to get your grades in there. Let your voice be heard and let me know so I can tabulate, and then we'll move on to the story, which I think will be the definite longest portion of our show tonight. But Romita Jr., man, he had a Punisher cover. Well, he had a real run on the Punisher for a while that really irked me, and that wasn't a good fit, I didn't think, for him.
Yep.
But like some of his like, what was it, 80s Spider-Man when he worked on that? It was decent. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
In fact, I like the way he does the Wrecking Crew because that works well with the lines because a lot of their uniforms have a lot of lines in them. So,
Yeah, if it was a prison scene, he'd be going great, with the stripes, But man, the man cannot draw metal to save his life. No way, no how. I mean, Bob Layton would be tearing out his hair if he saw the armor that he drew there. Just
God, yeah.
And we all know comics artists and comics professionals can't afford to tear out their hair. So,
Yeah, right.
oops, I'm sorry. We're waiting on Kenneth to come back. He took a slight powder. Oops. I'm going to start tabulating while he's coming back in. All right. Oh, here comes Kenneth. Yeah, see, I mean, it wasn't all bad. That's why I'm saying he's such a polarizing artist because he could maybe you're right on this one, Kenny. Maybe he was really getting a deadline crunch here. He had a bunch of books to push out, and he's like, "Look, you got 2 months, get these books done, or 3 weeks or whatever it is they give him, I'm not sure how fast he is in the lexicon of other artists, but if he's mixing digital and and hand drawn stuff too, that probably could speed him up quite a bit.
Yeah.
He did seem to get worse over time, right? I mean, a lot of his older stuff, it does hold up better. And he's not that old. Sometimes, even the best of them, as they get older in age, it's like their art might decline. But, like, he wasn't that old as it started declining. So maybe he was kicking back on that old nepotism ride. Just like, whatever.
Just keep him on one comic a month, guys. Maybe he'll be okay. Don't string him out any further than that.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tabulate. Looks like we got them all in. 1, 2.
Normally at this point we would be showing you the comic for next time, but since Mr. Miracle did not deign to let us know what that is.
Oh, I was gonna have to buy us all the issue just for inconvenience.
There you go.
So.
Miracle, I better have that comic at least 2 days before.
Well, the chat does agree with Kenny. They come in with a 2.5 serviceable. It was like a 2.35, whatever that. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like a fair grade for this book. I mean, for every good firework or splash page, and this thing is loaded with splash pages, by the way.
God, yeah.
For good or ill, too. I think a lot of that was just so they wouldn't have to draw any more panels. Once again, I think loading to the rush thing. So, but for every good fireworks page, you got a page or two of real humdrum and pretty poorly rendered stuff. So, yeah, it's a strange beast, but it gets the job done, I suppose. He's running on the con circuits. That's probably what he was doing.
Oh, man.
So, all right, let's move on to the story. And for this one, I'll go ahead and lead off. Let me put us back to here. Okay, I got rid of that. Okay. Story. So, okay. This book is all about the story, and it really helps to have read the Planet Hulk, or at least be aware of what happened during that, or the Hulkbuster series, right? Long story short, the Illuminati blasted Bruce into space to get rid of him. I guess he was too uncontrollable and decided he was a danger to society. He goes to another planet, fights as a gladiator for a while, gets enriched with more of the radiation from the planet, becomes the king, has a wife, has a kid. All that's taken away through a mysterious explosion, which the Hulk blames through machinations of Meek on the Illuminati back on Earth. So this whole thing's a giant revenge tale of the Hulk coming back to, get his pound of flesh for those who he sees kills his family and all of his people, right? So, this book story is super simplistic, right? It is point A to point B. There's no deviation. The Hulk is angry, and he just gets angrier and angrier and angrier as this book goes on. See, I've always kind of hated that thing with the Hulk because, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. It's like, is there no cap on rage? Apparently there isn't. So I don't know, but this book really exploits that. But this book is one gigantic fight through and through. It starts off with him leveling Black Bolt. And a really cool thing. In fact, I should have that pulled up. I'll get it going here while I'm talking, but it just doesn't stop for too much. The longest bits of exposition you get are usually from Doctor Strange when he's doing his incantations or whatever. But let's make it that splash page up here. Where was it? There it is. Why is that not show? There it goes. Like that right there is like right after Black Bolt hits him with one of his screams. That should just stop the fight right there. Hulk's like, I didn't come here to hear you whisper. I came here to hear you scream. And then they show that. And it's like fade to black. So lots of cool stuff like this. That's what everyone kind of tuned in to read. And this book does that in spades. But yeah, there's nothing too deep here. The only deeper aspects here, I guess you could say, are, does Hulk care more about his humanity or about the life on Sakaar he had? Would he actually tear down the world? Because he must, they evacuated the city somewhat. He must have killed thousands anyway and ruined everybody's lives with all the buildings that were destroyed and the homes that were destroyed. And who knows what other fallout there was. And especially when he steps on the earth later on, almost breaks the freaking continental shelf in half, right? It gets crazy in this book. So, there are some maybe deeper thoughts of that, but it's not really expounded upon too much. Long story short, Hulk is angry. Now, one thing this book does very, very, very well is setting up the whole battle with Sentry, right? So he's going through, the Hulk is just laying out Earth's heroes one by one, and really it focuses on the 4 big fights. Technically winds up being 3, but with the Illuminati and the Hulk. And he beats Hulkbuster Armor, destroys it. He beats Zom-empowered Doctor Strange when he has a moment of weakness. Beats Fantastic Four, and he just levels everybody, right? So, but all throughout these books, it's setting up that, hey, they come to Sentry almost right away. It's like Hulk is going to start rampaging. You're the only one on the earth that can stop him. You've got to do something. And there's a lot of different facets there because he doesn't want to even leave his house. And they're like, he's an agoraphobic, paranoid schizophrenic. It's like, and this is our best hope. But he doesn't. His first 4 issues, he stays in this house and won't even leave his house and watches it on TV while all the rest of the Earth heroes fall. And finally, he is convinced to join the fray. So I think it sets that up so well, and especially for people who never really read about Sentry. And he was after my time in comics. So he's one of this ridiculous retcon characters, but awful character, I think. But it sets that up so well. It sets up the confrontation. It sets up the stakes of what Reynolds, was it Richard Reynolds? I think it was Ryan Reynolds, something like that, is his name. He's the only one that can finally stop the Hulk. And then they have this epic showdown at the end of the book to kind of capstone. But the lead up to that is very good. And the fact that they had 5 issues to do it, let them take their time. They didn't have to rush it all. And so it gave some stakes to it because a lot of people didn't know what the Sentry can do. But just from reading those panels without seeing him sitting on his couch in the living room, they can actually think, well, can this guy beat this Hulk? Maybe he can, because it sounds like he can. So it makes for a good final confrontation. So that part was excellent. And it's funny too, because like Sentry should still destroy him, right? From what we see him do in other feats and what we read about his lore and all that. But all that beside the point, in this book, that's a really good lead up. That's the best thing this book does, is to lead up to that. So there's nothing else really there. You get a little bit from the Illuminati, and it's like making poor choices. And once again, there's a real bad inconsistency though with Doc Strange. Like, and they keep telling him, they even say it in the book. It's like, you could end this in a second. Just send him to another dimension or send him to another planet. You're the Sorcerer Supreme. He's like, no, I can't do that. All of a sudden he has this like bit of integrity about him. They blasted him into space before. It's like, now he's rampaging through New York and destroying all heroes, and you won't send him away. He'll just come back angrier. Well, where are you going to send him? Send him to an asteroid somewhere. He won't do it then. But, that little plot point notwithstanding, it's a super simple story. It's point A, point B. It's a Moby Dick kind of thing going on here. He piled upon the whale's white hump all the sum of rage and hate felt by his entire race. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it and all that good stuff. But still a fun read, and it breezed by. It would have been annoying to have to buy all 5 of these outside of a trade and wait in between, because this is something that's meant to be read just back to back to back to back. So I'm going to give this is definitely the strongest point for me. And I'm going to give it, man, this is tough to rate, because sometimes as bad as we get so jaded as comic book readers. We want to just like, oh, we need to be a super rich story. It needs to be dense. It has to have nuance. But I'm of the opinion a lot of times they should need to breeze by, be fun to read, and get on with your life. So all that being said, it does a few things well. Everything else is super simplistic. I'll give it a 3.5 just because it's a really cool concept of a story and it has a good lead up to the final confrontation. So 3.5. And let's see. So Roger, what say you on the story? Was this your can of worms inside, or were they fishing with blanks here?
Well, they could have used better lore. Let's put it that way. I see what you're saying, and expectations are different, I suppose, depending on who you are, right? I don't really cut a story or a comic any slack because of the fact that we don't have an expectation, right? Unless it's like a promo or a kid comic or something like that. So I want a solid story. I want something that, has some kind of challenge to me, right? I mean, something where there's a twist of fate or there's something I haven't read before. That's not here. I've read all this before, probably a dozen times. Okay. In fact, in Hulk's own comic, he took on all the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. When after that, Doctor Strange did what? Shunted him into another dimension. And he came back and he was cheesed off. I've read all this before. The only nuance here is that he is, obviously has really, this really is not so much a story as it is a study into the pathos of the Hulk and the Warbound, right? We had this family, we had this planet, and they said it over and over, almost in every issue. And then, you blew us up. You destroyed our planet, our families, our sons, our daughters. So they have motivation. Obviously, that's true. But it's razor thin. That's all it is. It's all trying to get to the point of the resolution, which, to me, it seemed fairly obvious. When he's going after the four, it seems like he wants revenge on the Earth, but really it's only these four that he wants to show everybody that they are really the monsters and not him, right? And he does have a mindset, he does have a plan to get there. But to me, once we come back from Black Bolt, in my mind I had already figured out where this was going. Because I've read so many comics and I've read the same story. And then you have Superman at the end, which will come in to save the day, right? And the other one, you have Thor come in, right? So, again, I read all this before. And then let's not even go that far. The year before, we had Civil War, where we had the heroes clash, This is really more Hulk versus the heroes, but still, you had that same kind of huge event that this is the same kind of event, right? That's something that takes the whole Marvel universe, puts them in a pocket, right, against each other. Why is it World War Hulk? Well, because if it was Manhattan Hulk, it wouldn't have the same impact. But really, he's not really. Never did I get the impression that he was going to harm anybody, permanently. He wanted to teach them a lesson, and that came through in the story. But it was entertaining in a superficial kind of lowest denominator kind of fashion, but it really didn't challenge me at all. I've read this story so many times. It had a little twist at the end, which I kind of saw coming because they kept saying, "Hey, we didn't do this," and obviously the bomb went off long after. He was transported there. So did they have some kind of timer for months later or something? Why would they send him off if they wanted to kill him? Why didn't they just kill him? These are all things that, logically don't make sense to me. And in fact, at the end, we see spoilers here, so turn off your volume. We see what I think is his son come out of the planet. So his son is still alive. So even that motivation is not going to be there. But of course, he didn't know that. I understand that. That being said, I mean, you're right, Gino. It does flow good as a big fight scene. You're right, but it was very predictable. I still enjoyed it though at some level. I enjoyed, Mr. Fantastic getting twisted into knots, and Tony Stark being pulverized in that armor. and Black Bolt, who was sometimes just a bit of a blowhard, get knocked down a peg. But it really wasn't so much story as sort of a study of just how cheesed off Hulk can get, and when that happens, nothing can stop it. I didn't go as far as you did. I gave it a 2.5 serviceable. Not razor thin story that I've read many times, but as far as a study of the determination and the pathos of Hulk, I think it's well done that way. 2.5.
Oh, do we lose
All
Kenny?
right, 2.5. Oh, there he is again.
Your
Okay.
kidney off.
Sorry. Getting the hang of
Kenny-
this phone streaming thing.
Oh, no problem. We'll let you go next in case you tap out again. So, what say you, sir? What was your take upon the writings within? Was this your cup of tea, or are we talking more like decaf coffee here?
So, I will say, based on the title of the story, I thought the stakes were going to be bigger than they ended up being. World War Hulk, I thought like it was going to be a worldwide thing. I thought it was just, the stakes were going to be bigger. Like I said, it was a pretty contained story when you get through it. I was waiting for like the scope of this thing to grow, but yeah, he pretty much just shows up and it's just after those 4 guys, the Illuminati, and they're all within like a 5-block radius, I guess, except for Black Bolt. But then it brings him into that Manhattan 4-block radius. So it's the scope was actually pretty small. So that was a little disappointing on that, but it was definitely a big beef battle beatdown going on throughout the whole series, which is fun. I can get into like hero on hero battles. They usually have like really flimsy motivations. Like there's always like a misunderstanding of some kind. They fight and once they cool off, they figure out, well, you shouldn't be fighting. This is a big misunderstanding, and that is kind of the case here. There is like a key misunderstanding there that they are not responsible for the big crime of blowing up the planet and killing the family, but there is still genuine motivation of like, I didn't read the when they actually banished him. I don't know if that was like against Hulk's wishes or not, but assuming it was, that's a pretty dirty deed too. He was a original Avenger or early Avenger, and they just banished his butt, right off to another planet. Like, you're monstrous, basically. You're too dangerous. We're just gonna banish you out. And even if they weren't responsible for what came later of the planet blowing up, you could almost see someone who goes through that trauma, blaming them. Like, if you guys didn't kick me out of the treehouse, I wouldn't have been out in the middle of space, in this predicament to begin with. So I liked that motivation of, I want to put you guys on blast and show that you're the monsters. I thought that was well done. I thought that was pretty clever and all that. At least it gave me some real motivation and not just make it a straight up misunderstanding. So that was okay. It is a very straightforward story, like you were saying. I don't know much about the Sentry. I didn't realize this guy is like god level, god tier, but apparently he is. I like seeing Hulk when he is like, when no one can beat him. I like seeing that version of Hulk. He's just an unstoppable beast. So that was fun to see. But, it got resolved kind of like unceremoniously. Like, the tractor beam did him in. Spoiler alert. He just gets done there by the tractor beam. Which, I don't know. I guess he mentally had to give up for that to affect him, because nothing affects him before that, But yeah, that's kind of the deal. Kudos for making it not a straight up misunderstanding. I felt like there was some motivation there. It was just a slugfest. Nothing too poignant going on. I don't know much about the Sentry, but it was somewhat exciting leading up to that final battle. That was pretty cool. So yeah, man, it was, I gotta call it just like the art. Really, I found it serviceable. I would give it a 2.5 for being a breezy read. It didn't take long to get through the 5 issues, and since the story was fairly slim, it's like, good. Don't bog me down with exposition and stuff. If it's a slim story, let's just get through it. And this book did that. So 2.5. I would recommend someone check it out if they're a fan of the Hulk. I'm glad I read it.
All right, another serviceable coming in from Kenneth, but a strong one, it sounds like. So it's always good when you can recommend a book, even if it's a 2.5. So there's plenty of books like that out there.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, hopefully we left some meat on the bone there for you to chew on. So what was your take? Would you use a marrow knife on this, or would you just go to the bones of the dog?
All right. Here's what I'll say. Like, logistically, it just doesn't work because Hulk goes in there saying, oh, yeah, I want these 4 guys. And what do they decide to do? Instead of, like, leaving New York City, going to, like, the Gobi Desert or something, they decide to, like, evacuate New York City and, like, just fight there. Like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, logistics is big with me. That it's if you have, like, good logistics in a story, it just flows so much better. And, like, I wasn't really sure which Hulk this was. All right, is this the mindless Hulk? Is this the Banner Hulk? What Hulk is going on here? Because, like, all right, he's super enraged. He's just, like, destroying things. Okay, and you find out the motivation for it. You find out, okay, yeah, his wife and kid was killed. Okay, so that can be very traumatic. Yeah, okay, I understand that. So, but you find out later, yeah, no, this is Banner Hulk. And it's the mind of Banner, like, behind this Hulk. He's just super enraged. So, I mean, it just didn't seem like that Hulk should fit into this kind of story where the Hulk is just super enraged, like destroying everybody. Because namely, like, Banner would go, hey, did you drop a nuke on me, Reed Richards? That kind of story. Like, that would just make sense to go about it that way instead of just assuming they did it and coming down and trying to, like, kick everyone's ass. And, from issue 1, I would say, by the way it was going, I was like, oh, I read the storybook. This is Doomsday versus Superman. But, it kind of morphs into something different. But, you could definitely see the influence of what they were doing. And the same idea with the Doomsday. It's basically every superhero is trying to stop him is, like, subdued. The only one who can do it is Superman, which is a la Sentry in this one. And, okay, I mean, it is very entertaining. I will say that. So, like, if this is a movie, this is like your shut your brain off movie and drink a 6-pack and, you'll be satisfied, that kind of thing. I'd be goofing on it. It'd be one of my B movies that, just throw in a pair of boobs and it's a perfect like Saturday night. So, yeah, the story, it's not too compelling. I mean, you guys pretty much said a lot of, like, what I wanted to say. It's not too compelling where I need to get this book. But it is something, like, if you can get it on, online, which is perfect. This is where I got it. Like, I definitely recommend, like, reading it. So, but I'm gonna give it a 2 as a final story. I've been pretty consistent on it. So, like, yeah, like that's my analysis right there. So,
cool.
All right, 2 it is. Let me get your grade recorded there. And speaking of grades, it's time for the chat grades before we move on to our final category, which we'll breeze through pretty quickly. My biggest problem was it was twofold, but it was the same problem. It was cool in this to see that there was damage repercussions. Like, the city was half leveled. Every hero he fought was, like, disfigured afterwards, and they stayed that way through the entirety of the story because he beat them so badly. And even at the end, Sentry is a bloody mess of pulp, right? The problem was I didn't carry over to the Hulk at all. He can still be hurt, and he took a pounding through a lot of this book, but nothing ever actually hurt him. Like, Strange was kicking the crap out of him for 3 things, and he just gets right up and shrugs it off and then, like, one-shots him. And same thing with basically all the fights in this. So he was never really hurt. So that takes away a lot of the stakes. I mean, it does show how powerful and how angry he was. But Hulk has always been able to be hurt before. I mean, he's not invulnerable. In this one, he just seems so unstoppable that like what I said, they just made it to where only thing that could happen or stand up to him was either Galactus or Sentry, right? So that part was kind of a miss, I think, on their part. And he heals so fast anyway. You can show him getting damaged and repairing himself, but it's just he never needed it,
Yep. Yeah, it's true. When that's the problem they had with Superman, why they depowered him, right? Because when you can't hurt somebody, then the story possibilities are reduced greatly. Unless so you start hurting the family, like this is what happened here. That's why I'm saying I've read this story in one version or another so many times before. What would have been interesting, right, was like, let's say, hey, some villain, planted that bomb in that shuttle, so, and because they had seen the future, right, or something like that, and then they had some kind of subplot to take over after that, something like that would have been, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting to me. But this was just, okay, you got it done. You subdued them. You showed the planet that these guys, are, ends justify the means kind of guy, and that's it. There was not I didn't really get a lasting effect here. It's just sort of like, okay, it happened. I got what I got, but the family's still dead. These guys are still alive. Nothing else has changed.
Yeah, that's the thing. I also felt like they didn't complete the story. Like, who dropped the bomb? Where's that angle? Somebody had to
It was one of the Warbound.
Yeah, it was Meek that actually sabotaged.
Yeah.
But he never really gave a reason. It's like, so the Hulk keeps destroying. Is like, that was his gestalt. Is he wants the Hulk to destroy everything? Why?
Yeah, he thought that peace is not what he is about. It wouldn't have been, true to his character. So he had to do something to make it so that they would have another battle, essentially. Okay. Again, it's very, very limited in scope there, but it is what it is.
And I thought Jay made a good point about you would think this is like Savage Hulk. It is kind of surprising that this is like the banner awareness Hulk, who's like on this rampage. You would think he would be one that could he wouldn't just get so blinded by rage and the misunderstanding of the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a logical man.
Yeah.
And
that's true. It wasn't Meek himself. He just didn't do anything about it because he wanted that to happen, I guess. So
it was a strange setup, and we didn't find out at the end until that's what happened. So but Hulk does some brutal stuff in this, man. Like he wrecks freaking Doctor Strange before he even fights him as a zombie. Just completely crushes his hands, and everyone's just beat to death.
With my crushed fingers.
I know he's trying to do the incantations. He can't do it because his hands are all gnarled up, and he spaghettifies freaking Mr. Fantastic. So there's a lot of really amazing stuff in there when it comes to that.
Yeah, it was crazy. He beat them all up so bad. They all had these square, blocky noses and square heads. He really did a number on them.
Let's see what I don't have one in there, but anyway, yep. All right, so let me go ahead and get the tabulation.
Looks like 3.5. There's only 4 scores.
Uh-huh.
And yep, we got a 3.5. Look at that. So hey, they agree with me. Good taste. Good taste.
Hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day. All right, so let me go ahead and remove this, and let's see. Let's go ahead and tab Jay. You can start this one off. What's your idea on the concept of this book? It's our quickest category, so yeah, just give us your thoughts.
I think Roger hit on that. I've read this story so many other times in so many other variations. It's not a new concept, but I don't mind that as long as you pull it off well. And ultimately, this is an okay book. It's not. I wouldn't say it broke the bank and made something revolutionary, and it didn't disappoint entertainment wise. So concept wise, I'm going to give it a 3.
All right, you took that quickness to heart, so we got a 3 there. Roger, what say you on the concept? Was this 3 worthy, or did you go above and or below?
I can't give this 3. I mean, this smells, tastes, looks like a cash grab all the way through. They recycle story. They had another huge event. They just coming off Civil War. where they did give some credence to that story when Tony Stark, well, if anybody wants to help out, I'll pardon them. So it's another event that brings together the universe in a big battle, so you can see a multitude of heroes get beat up or beat up somebody. But the story just didn't have any teeth to it. It didn't really get you anywhere. You were almost right back at the beginning, a little bit, but not to the point where I would say, oh, this really moved the needle one way or the other. It was entertaining, kind of like, when you see one of those vapid, mindless movies and you're like, next week you've already forgotten about it, It's too cash grabby for me to give it a serviceable, even though they had some good aspects to it, the wrong artists, but it did flow well as far as the story. It was entertaining, but again, just wasn't. I wanted something at least a little bit more, a little deeper, something that had a little bit more teeth to it. This just didn't have it. I think they really just slid by here, threw this together. Hulk mad. Hulk has pathos. Hulk wants justice. Hulk is going to smash the people who sent him into space. Boom. There you go. That's not a very deep concept to me, too.
All right. 2 coming in hot from Roger there. So, Kenny, do you go any higher than that, or what say you?
I agree with Roger on a lot of that. I feel like just missed opportunity on the concept. Like I said, going into it with that title, World War Hulk, I was expecting a bigger scope situation. And it's a shame that they didn't considering that the chess pieces that they had on the board right here, going into the story, you have Hulk that's banished to another planet. Things can happen on that other planet that change him one way or the other. And then now you're going to tell the story of Hulk's return to Earth. And let's say he's pissed off about something or has some kind of agenda that's going to put him at odds with the heroes of Earth. If that's your starting point, man, you could have made something really epic and something really interesting with that concept. If that's the cards that you're dealt, and if you're going to use that name, World War Hulk, like, man, I could think of a dozen scenarios that would be more than I'm pissed. I'm gonna go directly from that planet straight to Manhattan, and this whole story arc is gonna take place in Manhattan, within in one neighborhood, and it's just gonna be a slugfest against the Illuminati. Pretty big letdown. Not a lot of meat on the bone on this one. Sad to say. So I'm with Raj. This was a 2.0 concept. A bit of a cash grab, yeah, and a waste of a good title. World War Hulk is pretty cool sounding.
All right, there we go. So a 2 coming in there from Kenneth. So let me go ahead and finish this up. So yeah, this is one big missed opportunity. It could have been so much more, and it's light as the story is. They could almost fit this book into like a 64-page special, to coin the phrase, or an annual. Like, it didn't need to be 5 books. So they definitely, it's just one big action fest, really. But with that many issues to go over, they could have done something more meaningful with the story. He could have lost one of the Warbound and made him even more raged, or the heroes got beaten so easy. Like, his Warbound crushed all the mightiest heroes of Earth almost on their own. They almost didn't need the Hulk except for the big boss fights. So that part was a really big missed opportunity. There really wasn't much gravity. And he gets this cult following of people like Go Green and all that. The New Yorkers he's destroying their city and homes. It's like, why are they cheering this guy on? Because he says these other guys are bad, that he's killing everybody to get to. That didn't make any sense either. But it's undeniably cool to watch him just, plow through Earth's mightiest heroes, and then just keep on coming as the threats escalate, and he just keeps whipping through them. So there's some undeniable fun to be had in that. And so in that factor, the book gets the job done. But it's super basic. it definitely feels like it shouldn't have been limited to just New York. I think he should just been chasing them across the earth. Then the heroes got to start running. That'd have been kind of cool. And then the other heroes are trying to protect them and hide them because he won't kill them, but he'll kill the Illuminati, right? Or whatever. I don't know. He had some gladiator thing. It was a little bit convoluted there in the middle. But yeah, long story short, nothing new here. It's a simple revenge story. It was a cool concept to put over 5 books, I guess, to sell a lot of them. Lots of big action. I don't know, 2.5. There's nothing new here. But it got the job done as far as concepts go. All right. We'll just leave it here in the panel. So what say you, chat, if you want to put your scores in while we go over our overall scores, and then we'll call this one finished. So,
and Genome, I think on that note, I'm gonna jump so I can prepare for, the next. I'm a very ceremonial judge at the DJ Link situation, but that's later after Greater Notes is over. And I'm just going to get prepped here. And good recommendation. I'm glad to have read this one. I'll leave my overall thoughts. I'll leave you with my overall great thoughts. And I usually go by the numbers on that. And my numbers would because I went a little above average on the cover and a little below average on the concept, and I was straight average on art and story. So I think that rounds out to just a cue the comic book guy meme, serviceable 2.5 overall. Not a total stinker, worth the read.
All right. Well, have a good show, Kenny. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. Or should I call you
Kenny.
Steve? And until next time, Mr. Jobs, we'll see you.
Good to see you guys. Bye.
All right, Jay, what say you? What was your idea on the overall concept, or excuse me, the overall grade of this book?
Overall, I'm going to do like my overall score before. So it's also a 2.5. It's just so. I mean, I read this thing like in an hour. Like I shouldn't have been able to do that. This is like the olden days. It would have taken me like a good solid 2-3 hours to read all these. But it's worth it. I mean, it's worth it if you don't buy it. It's worth it if you don't buy it. But it's just so fast. Like there's tons of splash pages. The dialogues are like 3 sentences per page, and then it's already done. So they were just really selling the concept of it. I mean, but then like Roger said, the concept's already been done like a million times. They just wanted a Secret Wars event kind of. Civil War, that kind of thing. So yeah, a 2.5 for me. It is. Don't buy it. Read it online.
All right. So, Roger, sir, what was your thoughts on the overall here?
Yeah, I think 2.5s all around. Honestly, my score came out perhaps just a tad below, but I can't say, considering, in all honesty, what I've read out there, that this is below average, right? Because it still had a very entertaining aspects to it. I happen to like those huge company events, even though sometimes they can be vapid. But, there was a visceral kind of rush that I got. Like you said, seeing the Hulk, on super steroids, just demolishing everybody, because he had this righteous anger. And I don't know, it kind of, in a strange way, I sort of could see why that was justified. And I could tell that, the Illuminati, they didn't consider all their options or the repercussions of their actions. Doctor Strange could have taken care of this. He could have shunted him into an alternate dimension. If he came back, shunt him again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like there weren't resolutions. Nobody tried to use any kind of gas, which was in the 70s. That's how you got the Hulk.
Yep.
You would gas him. I mean, there were so many options that were never explored here on both sides. And the Hulk, they kept saying we didn't put the bomb. Well, you know what? There are ways of discerning the truth. Bring Professor X over or something. Whatever. Yeah. So, again, there were so many missed opportunities here, but it was, to me, at some level, I did enjoy it. But many, many, many problems with the story. It just seemed like they just gave the people what they want, give them the violence, give them the great covers on this. There were great covers, I have to admit. I was impressed with the covers. But everything else was really substandard, but I still enjoyed it. So, serviceable.
All right, serviceable there. And I didn't get to say, I got the concept grade tabulated for the chat, and it is actually 3. And the overall for the chat is 3.5. So,
Wow.
there you go. So, yeah, the overall of this book. So, I gave the cover 3.5, went a little above average. It's cool. It's a cool cover. A little light on details, but it was made up for that in some aggression. And there's a lot of, like Roger was saying, a lot of really cool covers in this series. Yeah, Finn should have done the insides. You got that right, Jackson. That would have helped so much too, like a more serious look to the inner panels here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I gave that a 3.5. The interior art, I gave it a 3. There's a lot of undoubtedly cool fight scenes and big, bright, flashy flash panels. Obviously, computer enhanced, I think. But some of it's cool and understanding, but nothing too spectacular. For the story, I gave it a 3.5. It is a simple revenge tale, but there's just enough pathos behind at least 2 of the characters there, and it is fun just to watch him just destroy everybody in his path. That's the Hulk. That's the rampaging Hulk you think he is. So, yeah, I give that a 3.5. For the concept, I gave it a 3 once again. A lot of times in these hero fights, it's like the hero fights one other hero or one other team, and this one, he fights everybody. Every hero team basically is thrown at the Hulk, and he just brushes them all off. And before I get to my overall, there is a sidebar story in the X-Men books where he goes and finds the other 2 Illuminati characters of Namor and Professor X, and both of them actually voted to not launch the Hulk into space, so he spares them. Namor gets it by pretty easy, but the X-Men all get beaten down completely before Professor X finally gets it through to him. But he literally breaks Colossus's arms in half, and he pulverizes Wolverine so bad, like he should always do. Sorry, Dave, you're chat now. But I mean, if you get down to power levels, there's no way Wolverine should be tangling with the Hulk. I mean, let's be honest. But so yeah, there's some more like background in the other X-Men books to kind of lead up to that. But I will say too, I think it's interesting in this book that if this is the more in control Banner Hulk, that this shows you how pissed it off it is. It's not just the Hulk here is mad, it's Banner who's mad. So maybe that's why he is just not holding the Hulk back at all. Yeah. And so it gives a little more to it, but like it doesn't go into that in the books really. I mean, that's left for the reader to decide for themselves. No. At the end of the day, it is a simple cash grab. It's a big epic fight story. It got a cool title. And, for those who like, bloodlust, this book has got it in spades. There's not really too many deaths other than Meek. So, I don't mind always a simple story. I would like a little more meat and gravitas inside, but, we got what we got. Was it worth a read? Yeah. Would I worry about getting this slabbed for future generations? Probably not. But I would definitely recommend reading it, if not online. You find it pretty cheap like I did in a trade. It's not a bad way, but Jay's right. You can read this whole book in like 30 minutes. And that's if you go back and look at a couple of the splash pages and like, ooh, that's amazing. Because there's like maybe a page of dialogue in the entire books of these things. It's super simple. And huge panels. Like there's very few pages with more than 4 panels on it or whatever that. So yeah. All that being said, I'm going to give the overall, I'll let Matt decide, and it said a 3, and I think the 3 is fair. I give it just a little above average, just on the scope of what's going on. They saw it through the end. They had a great build up to the final fight. It was rendered somewhat poorly, but it was a lot of big explosions, and there was actual something going on. And it even leads up at the end with the picture of Scar rising out of the planet, which is a kind of a cool last panel too. Even though we don't have any idea that's what that is. We think it's just Hulk rezzing, but there it is. So you can see the birth of a character no one really cares about. But yeah, so a 3. I mean, it's worth a read. Go check it out if you've never checked it out before, but definitely don't pay top dollar for it unless you're really a huge Hulk guy. But even this one doesn't dig into the Hulk character that much. For a Hulk-centric book, it really doesn't. You hear more from the Warbound, way more from the Warbound than you do from the Hulk in this. So give it a 3. So that's going to conclude tonight's show. I'm no rush now because Kenny had to go, but I think it was fun. What do you guys think of the book, like just as an enjoyment? Did you actually enjoy reading it at all?
Like I said, I mean, I think we said it before. It's a good, fun read, but not anything you have to read.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-pack, to enjoy it.
It's like a summer blockbuster of comic books, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going into it and I think it took me like 40 minutes to read the whole thing too, and that's because I went back sometimes to sort of reference to see, because I tried to sort of get in the mindset of the Hulk, and that's why I kind of figured out the plot early on.
Yeah.
But honestly, there were these parts where I was like you, Gino, when I saw that Hulk, just go to town. It's like every once in a while I'm like, yeah, he deserves that, So, that part I was kind of into it, but reflecting, overall Grader's notes kind of goggles is a very thin story that I've seen so many times before. And if it wasn't for, the kind of differences, like having the Warbound, having that gladiator mentality, which the Hulk really usually didn't have here and there. I thought that part was kind of interesting, but the rest of it, I've read it so many times before. Nothing new here.
No, definitely nothing new in the sun. I think that if there was anything that was even considered like have any depth at all, it was probably the portion where Strange goes in astral projection into the Hulk to try to calm him down that way.
Mm-hmm.
Use his brain instead. Mm-hmm. But even the Hulk even beats him in his own realm, which is kind of funny. But so that's about the only section of this book with any real depth,
Yeah,
which didn't make sense to me at all. Like, Hulk should be totally powerless in the astral realm, and Strange should have complete dominion over him that way. But
and that's been established before.
Yeah,
and and a lot of the characters were out of character here. Like Doctor Strange was way out of character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He says, "Well, I can't kill him because of what it does to my soul," but yet he absorbs a demon.
Yeah.
To
do it. Yeah.
To do it. So I mean. Yeah. Come on, the dichotomies here are great, But if you turn off your mind and you just sort of have that, but just that part, that archaic part of your brain open, it's not a bad comic.
Well, the writers definitely didn't use their logical side to use the storyline. I mean, why is the Hulk fighting everybody one-on-one? Why are the superheroes not, ganging up on him?
That's very true.
Why,
It's like a kung fu movie where everyone's circling the hero and they come in one at a time and all get beaten up.
Yeah.
Or here's a concept. He wanted these 4 guys. Well, if they're really heroes, let them go to the front.
They would have,
and take it and save the rest of the city,
mm-hmm.
right? No, that would have been half a comic though. So
yeah, they're definitely, the writers are definitely going with their emotional side instead of their logical side. But that's the world today, I guess.
I guess it is. I think it was just 2005, 2007, somewhere around there. I think, but yeah, so there it is, everyone. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight, chat. Glad Mr. Miracle could make it in afterwards. Hope the move went well for your friend there. And we'll see you next. Did you have a pick, by the way, that we can tell everybody before we get out of here? If you're still in the chat, Dave, type it in or we'll put an announcement out there somewhere on someone's channel. But that is another one in the books. And thanks, Jay, for stopping in tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
Since I kind of merged this into Friday Night Hangouts, this is what it turned into.
Great job, Jay. Great job. I enjoyed your analysis. Great.
Well, thank you. Now that means a lot coming from you. You're like the resident, comic book god here in the
well, no,
in the YouTube verse.
But I do like to nitpick comics. That's for sure.
Okay, like everything, like guys like the third inker of Dark Savage or something. Like that,
Well, when you've been along, it's like anything else. Like what was that movie? Groundhog Day, right? Where Bill Murray says, "I'm not a god. I've just been around so long that he knows everything."
That's a good one.
That's a pretty good analogy for me. Yeah.
Yeah, give a story like this to a Byrne or something like that. Someone who really wants to get in depth and make something different. It could have been really something, And
wrong artist. Totally wrong artist too. Totally wrong.
Ooh, yeah, just If so many what could have beens, that kind of book. So, but I've never actually read the entire, or not on the digital or the print copy of the Planet Hulk. So I probably should check that out someday. The
Much better story than this. Much better.
animated movie is pretty good. If you've never seen that,
Oh yeah,
I
seen
haven't,
that.
but
really good voice
much better
acting.
story.
Are you into the animated cartoons at all or anything? Or at all, Roger?
No, not really.
No.
No.
No. I would say forget the Marvel stuff. Like DC cartoons are spot on. They're almost like exactly like a rendition of the comic books. Like if you enjoy those, like you'll definitely like those a lot better.
I mean, if they come across, if I'm watching something and or if stream or something and they come across, I'll watch them. But I usually don't. I'm not a big television guy, so
No, I got you.
No one who sits in a throne is. We know. Well, I want to thank chat tonight for hanging out with us in this somewhat rushed but still thorough episode. There will be an announcement. Any McFarlane book will do for Miracle. That's true. Yeah, pick something with McFarlane there, Miracle. Something you like.
We've been down that road.
Pick another Hulk book with McFarlane. But yeah, thank you so much for the chat for hanging out with us and making this one of my favorite shows to do, other than Friday Night Hangouts, right? But so yeah, I'm gonna just make this the show for this evening, so everyone gets back to their night in a decent hour or morning if Darren's still in the house. So usually we're his wake up call over there in Australia. So, but yeah, thanks again for watching, everybody. I'm sure Mr. Miracle will put out something to social media somewhere to let us know the next book, so you can prepare yourself. And before we go, gentlemen, is there anything else you want to announce? Anything big coming up in your channels? Or
I just released a video today. Go check it out. It's the Nietzsche and Superman and how it affects the character Superman. So
Cool.
Interesting. So Superman's going to quit working and call himself a philosopher and live off everybody else.
Oh man, cool.
If Marx had one thing in common with Nietzsche, it was that. No. But how about you, Roger? You got anything coming up here in the near future?
On Sunday, I'm going to be on Night Tiger's channel. We're going to be doing a Halloween or a scary comic special.
Awesome.
There's going to be like comic-gory kind of thing where you guys are going to judge us on
awesome.
the covers, and there are going to be prizes. Each one of us are going to be giving away a prize. So if you got nothing to do after 8:00 on Halloween night, come over.
Well, groovy. Well, thanks again, gentlemen, for making a great panel here. Any watch party? No. Oh yeah, is there a watch party on that
tomorrow? Or I think he meant us with Conan the Destroyer. Are we doing that?
Oh, I haven't heard anything from anybody. I'll send a message out on Instagram, but I haven't heard anything. I don't know if Bill's still in the chat. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him in a little while.
Might be eating dinner.
Maybe he might be.
I'll send a message out if there is. I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Don't plan around it because I don't know for sure. So that was my fault for being me. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and especially on replay. If you got through this far, we really appreciate it. And until 2 weeks from now, a fortnight from now, we'll see you on Mr. Miracle's channel and book to be announced. And thanks again, guys, for making this a great time. So until then, this is the Creators Notes crew signing out.